Hi, it's Margaret, and thank you so much for joining me here in my basement on the Gardening Me. Today I am doing a quick tour of everything that I have under the grow lights. I'm actually growing a little bit less than normal. I have decided to cut back a tiny little bit, and it was very hard because there is a lot of work that I need to do in the actual garden itself with adding some drip irrigation, running water lines to certain areas of the garden, expanding a couple of areas of the garden, and that kind of thing. I often get a little too ambitious earlier on in the season, and yeah, this year I really tried to rein it in. Now what I'm going to do is, because it's hard to kind of get my camera under here, and pulling these trays out and holding the camera is a little bit of a pain. I'm just going to pull each tray out and put it on a shelf here in my basement, and we'll go through all of the different varieties that I'm growing. And I think we're going to start with this guy right here. Let's start off on this end here, and here we have a couple of varieties of Scabiosa. I have Summer Fruits and Salmon Queen. And right beside there, I also have a couple of varieties of Calamintha. Now you can see here we have the white and the blue, which didn't have as good germination. I did grow Calamintha from seed last year, and it is in the garden, so I'm hoping it comes back well. We'll see. And right behind there, I have some Achillea, and that one is called Love Parade. It is a new to me variety that I'm trying. And right beside it is Double Diamond. Double Diamond looks to be quite a bit taller than the Love Parade. It also germinated a lot quicker. This is a different species than the traditional Achillea that you have in the garden with the kind of umbral kind of heads. These have very small individual flowers, and I really, really like it. I have Marshmallow, which is another variety of this same type of Achillea, already in the garden. Love it. So right behind that we have snapdragons, and this year I just sowed them in these 2x3 cells, and I've let them grow, and I don't even think I'm going to pot them up. And in fact, I'll probably be hardening those off this week to go into the garden, because we are getting at that time. These are hardy annuals, and they should do just fine, even if our weather gets a little bit chilly. I have Double Shot Orange. I have Apple Blossom, which I'm really looking forward to. Night and Dawn, which is a short snapdragon, and right beside there is Oriental Lanterns, which is also a short one, as well as the one back here. Cherry Twist is a short one. And here, the Chantilly mix, really looking forward to that one. That one has those open flowers on it. I can't wait to see what they look like. Behind those, we have some marigolds, and this one here is Queen Sophia. This one is Colossus Red Gold. It's one of my favorite marigold varieties when it comes to those larger blooms. This tray here has primarily celosia. This is a celosia that I sowed in a video a few weeks back, and the germination was not bad in certain varieties. The Xantippe was really good, and Rainbow Sherbet, again, quite good, as well as Asian Garden, it did okay. And then here we have Flamingo Pink, which didn't have the best germination last year, and again, this year I think I sowed more seeds than normal because of that. And, you know, I have a few in there. And then we have Burning Embers here, and this guy here. Look at the beautiful leaves on that already. And there we have Flamma Orange, and Flamma Orange really did not have good germination for some reason, and that one I actually ended up sowing another pack a couple of weeks later. So here I have Pompous Plume, and then I actually have another cell pack right here, which was a second sowing. Last year I sowed the celosia, and I made a note to sow it a couple of weeks later. And what happened was, when I sowed it for the video, I did end up sowing it at the same time as I did last year, but I made a note to try a separate sowing 2 weeks later to see how that one did. So there is not a huge difference between that and the other ones that I sowed 2 weeks earlier. I have here the pompous plume and the flamingo pink as well, because I didn't get that many. And yeah, so if I look here, that's what they look like in there. And this is the first sowing, a little bit bigger, but really not that much. So next year, I'm definitely going to sow them a couple of weeks later. In this tray, I also have some ageratum. Here is Blue Planet. And then I have this guy here is Red Flint. I'll just move this aside there. Oh, these leaves. This is where I'm keeping my amaryllis. And then up here, we have Aloha Blue right there. So those are doing pretty well. And last but not least in this tray is some Agastache. I have some Golden Jubilee, Apricot Sprite, and then way over here, I have Bolero. So here we have some heliotrope, and this is a new to me plant. I've never grown it before, as well as Kufia, which is the one that's right beside it. And this one had really bad germination, although I'm not surprised because the packet itself did say it has very kind of sporadic germination. So I think I only ended up getting 3 plants from that. So here's the Kufia, and this one is called Pink Shimmer. So I have this one here. This is a perennial. This is called Crazy Daisy, and it is a daisy, obviously, that has these crazy poofy petals. It's really quite lovely. Here we have some Nepeta Grandview. Again, I did grow this one last year as well. And here we have some Gaillardia. This is Mesa Peach. And here we have some Double Sunset and Arizona Apricot. Now in this tray here, there is some Salvia, Blue Cloud Salvia, and unfortunately I only got a couple of seedlings out of that one. I think I probably sowed in the neighborhood of 6, maybe 9 in there. So this is another plant that is a first timer under the lights, and this is Lobelia. I think I sowed this one a little too early. It's already starting to flower, and I have actually cut back a lot of it already. So we'll see how it does. I really don't want to pot it up because normally when I buy Lobelia, I do actually buy it in these little cell packs, and then it totally bulks up once you get it into a pot and the warm weather hits. I have a couple of varieties here. This shorter one here is Riviera Blue. And then I have this taller variety here. I have a couple of packs of that, and that's Regatta Mix. And this one is a mix of colors. And here I have a little pack of Nicotiana. This is Bronze Queen. I actually need quite a bit of this year for one area of the garden. And my original sowing, was the second sowing, it didn't germinate that well. So I decided to put in a ton more seeds. I think the seed might have been a little bit old. And I got quite a few more in here. So this should be good. This is an entire tray of foxglove. And these have actually been potted up. I grew them in modules that were, I think, 2 or 3 by 4. And then just last week, I separated out the largest ones and I potted them up individually into this tray. It's like a 50 count tray, I believe. So the varieties I have here are Carousel Mix, right down here. This one is Candy Mountain. This is Fairy Queen. And Foxy. I had so much Foxy. It grew like a champ. So have quite a lot of that. And speaking of foxglove, here's our other tray, and these are the extra seedlings that I had, and I thought, you know what, I didn't really want to chuck them, and I didn't really want to pot any more up, so I decided just to toss them into these little cells here if I ended up needing them, because some of the ones I potted up died, or, you know, that kind of thing, I would have them there. So, and next here is some honeywort. I haven't grown this. This variety's purple tear. I haven't grown this in quite a few years. I saw the packet in my stash and couldn't resist. So I have a couple of cell packs of that one. I have this one here and then this one over here. Now over here we have a couple of salvias. These are annual salvias, and there is Blue Better, and I have a couple of trays of that, and I have some more over here, and then I have another variety called Victoria, and there's more Victoria as well. Then behind here I have a perennial salvia, New Dimension Blue. And last in this tray are these guys, and these are Russian status, and the germination was quite frankly abysmal on these. I had 2 4-cell packs of each variety, and in each case I only got 2 seedlings, and I sprinkled on quite a lot of seeds, I believe, because these are those tiny, tiny, almost dust-like seeds, so I just kind of took a pinch and sprinkled them on. So you can see here I have a couple of seedlings for Russian status. I actually just plopped that out of the cell pack it was in and put it in here just to save space. No point having an entire cell pack under the lights with only 1 cell that has germination in it. And then I have a couple of the pink poker back there. And here I have another new to me plant that I'm trying this year. I grew Impatiens many years ago. I think when I first grew annuals from seed, I lived in a house that had quite a lot of shade near our front entrance. So I thought, oh, I'll try Impatiens. And this was probably, I don't know, I'm trying to think here, 30 years ago. Almost 30 years ago. And I grew them, and they actually grew quite well. I was really surprised, especially for the first time growing them. But for some reason, I haven't grown them since, and I don't know why. I had this packet here from All America Selections, and it's called Solarscape Pink Jewel. So I figured I will give them a try, because every year I do buy Impatiens for our front entrance, because it's again, a shady front entrance. And yeah, they are looking awesome. I have potted them up. I'm not sure whether this is the first or second potting up. I'm thinking it's actually just the first potting up that I've done. And they're looking really good. Now, I'm not growing a ton of veg this year because I really want to concentrate on my perennial borders that often get neglected a little bit, really, because I spend so much time growing and harvesting and preserving vegetables. So this year I'm taking a little bit of a break. I'm growing just a few select things. And one of the things I am growing are peppers, because I always grow a ton of peppers and they're super easy to grow. And then I freeze them and I have them all winter, and I love them. So I have a bunch of different varieties here. I'll just quickly run through them. Now, the varieties I'm growing in here include a variety I picked up in Portugal many years ago. In fact, I think I have to save seed from that one because it's probably not going to be viable for much longer, and it's called Dos de Spain. I'm also growing Jimmy Nardello, a Melrose, Joe Parker, which is an Anaheim type pepper, Sweetie Pie, which is an All America Selections pepper, and Dragonfly Sweet. I think that's all of the varieties I'm growing, and I'm growing multiples of quite a few. So altogether, I think there are 16 pepper plants here. Now, they're still in these little kind of 2.5 by 2.5 inch pots. I am going to be potting these up this week, I think. You can see down here that there's roots coming out. They definitely need to be potted up. Here we have some delphiniums. I've never grown these from seed before either, and I have a couple of different varieties. The ones here in these 2 cells here are called Jenny's Pearl Blue, and you know what, the other variety is on another tray, so we'll get to that. I have some eucalyptus here. This one is called Silver Drop. And I have some Bergamo Minarda here and Lemon Bee Balm. Grow these every year. They're annuals and they're just gorgeous. They flower for such a long time. And back there, I do have a little bit of Greek oregano growing as well. And as well, first this year is this guy here. This is Dichondra, and it's Silver Falls, the pretty standard variety. And again, first time I'm growing that. I've never grown that from seed before, and so far, so good. I also have some Coreopsis here. This is yellow fully double, as well as some Echinacea. And what's funny about all this Echinacea is I have some here, I have some here, and where else? Right here. And the funny thing about the Echinacea is I wasn't planning on growing any this year inside. I do have a bunch of it winter sown. What happened though is I actually ended up finding some seeds in the freezer, and these seeds were being stratified. They were in paper towel, in a baggie, and they just kind of got lost. So instead of throwing them out, they'd probably been there for about a year, I guess, I just decided to sow them. So that's what these are. Some obviously doing a little bit better than others, but that's okay. To me, it's just bonus plants. Here we have Veronica. This one is called Pink Goblin. And right beside it, right here, is some more Agastache, Raspberry Daiquiri. I think this one is also possibly marginally hardy. I can't recall off the top of my head. And here we have Evening Sensation, which is a petunia that I'm growing. It is an All-America Selections winner. I am not a huge fan, I'm sorry to say, of petunias, but I did have the seed and I thought, oh, why not give it a try? It may surprise me because, quite frankly, when I first grew the very first marigolds ever, I thought I wasn't a fan of marigolds. And then I grew them and I loved them so much. So you never know. I may just end up becoming a petunia fan. So in this tray, we have a bunch of Nicotiana, and these do need to be potted up. I have Bronze Queen. This is the one, remember I said didn't have the best germination. And here we are. You can see there's, maybe 6 or 7 viable seedlings in there. And I needed quite a bit more for the area I was doing. A saved seed from last year, so that should be exciting. And Starlight Dancer. That one is sort of a whitish, greenish variety. Also not the best germination, but I ran out of seed for that one, so that's all I get. Then here is the second sowing of Flamme Orange Celosia. And again, American Dream Coreopsis. Now, this one I did grow last year. Last year, I sowed a bunch of seed. Last year, I only got 1 seedling. So I think I sowed a bunch more, whatever was left in the packet, I'm thinking. And once again, I got 1 seedling. So this here is some Pacific Mix Status. And then in front of that, we have the other Delphinium. I was growing Jenny's Blue in that other tray. This one is Guinevere. Then I have back here some Summer Jewel Salvia, which again is an annual salvia. And then, okay, this is a little bit on the exciting part. Look at these guys here. This is the Rex Begonia that I grew from seed. Now, the reason why this is exciting is because these guys take forever to germinate. And then when they do, they look like this. Do you see this little guy here? The little guy right there. They seem to look like that for a very long time, and then they start bulking up. And there was quite a lag, I think, between the time the first one germinated and the time the last one germinated. I do have another one here. Look at this guy, even tinier. This was a second sowing. I actually decided to just use up the rest of my seeds. I only had 2 seeds left in the packet, so I sowed 2 more, and 1 germinated, 1 didn't. Now, I did end up talking to Connie over at William Dam, which is where I got the seeds. She said they do take a long time to come up. They do take a while to get past that really tiny little stage, but once they get going, they do get going quickly. So we'll see how this turns out, but it is very exciting. Here is another 50 tray, and this is of dahlias that I'm growing from seed. So I have a few different varieties here. On this side here, we have large flowered mix, and in the middle here, we have one called cactus mix, and then blazing saddles on the end. There are a few empty cells, but for the most part, they germinated quite well. And here we have my gorgeous coleus. Oh, love it so much. I have 3 different varieties in here. We have Colocha Sunset here, and here is Colocha Rose. And then on this side here, we have Sun Coral Candy. These have been potted up, and they are just doing so well. Behind them, I'm growing Gara from seed this year, and this variety is called Sparkle White. And then in front of that is the single seedling of Fama Blue Scabiosa. This is the perennial Scabiosa. So this is the only one that germinated out of maybe, I don't know, 5 or 6 seeds. I'm not really sure how many I put in, but there were a few, and I got 1 to germinate. So once again, 1 is better than none. And here we have some Mahogany Splendor Hibiscus. And behind that is some flatleaf parsley. So here we have some amaranth. This is Hopi Red Dye. These guys grow really quickly, and I am going to be potting them up once they get a little bit bigger. And then behind that, we have a tomato. This is Blush, and I am growing a few varieties of tomato this year. Not many, I think 3 or 4. And this one is the first one to germinate, so it's now off the heat mat. The other ones are still on the heat mat. And here's another variety of eucalyptus that I'm growing. This one is called Lemon Bush. And boy, when they said this smelled like lemon pledge, they were not kidding. The smell is pretty intense. So especially when you touch it. If I'm just standing here, I don't smell anything. But as soon as I touch one of those leaves, those oils waft up into the air. I mean, look at that. Look how furry that leaf is. Wow. So yeah, I am going to try putting this one on our patio to see if it has those mosquito repelling properties that it's apparently supposed to have. I guess we'll see. Right behind it is some Vanity Verbena, which I did try to grow from seed inside. I've also winter sown it, and germination was not that great. I'm actually already seeing a little bit of germination in the winter sowing container, so we'll have to do a little comparison to see. And right on the end here of this tray are these absolutely gorgeous guys. This is Dusty Miller, and this is a variety called New Look. Wow. I absolutely love these. I think I am possibly going to have to pot these up. I'm not sure whether these are considered to be hardy annuals or not, whether I could plant them outside early and instead of potting them up. I have had Dusty Miller that was very hardy, but I'm not sure about this particular variety. I do have some hollyhocks here that I've already potted up, and these guys, there are 2 varieties, Creme de Cassis and Apricot Peach Parfait. So they're doing well. And right beside them is a Pennisetum. This is Fluffy, which is a glorious grass I saw last year at the William Dam Trial Gardens. And it is beautiful. Now you'll notice there's 1 cell missing there. I wasn't sure whether this guy was hardy enough to go outside now. So I did take 1 cell out, put it in a pot, and it's hardening off outside right now. And so far so good. It looks really good. The thing with a lot of these seed packets I find is that almost all of them say to wait until after the last frost date to put stuff outside, even when it's technically a hardy annual that can go outside several weeks before your last frost. I didn't want to try it with all of them, but it's been out there for about a week now and under some pretty chilly conditions at times, and it's looking great. So I think I am going to bite the bullet and just start hardening this guy off this week. So the only other things I have are this Salvia, which is currently on the heat mat, and it's summer jewel pink. And as you can see, it's just starting to germinate there. So that will be coming off the heat mat today or tomorrow. I had a super old packet of petunia seeds. I mean, this thing I think was like 8 years old, and I just threw it in here and figured since I was doing the other petunias, I would throw these in as well. Doesn't look like anything is happening on those. And lastly, on these heat mats, there are a couple of other varieties of tomato. I have Chico 3 and I have Riesentraub. And these two are just, well, the Riesentraub anyway is just starting to come up. So it's going to stay on the heat mat for another day probably. And the Chico, nothing is coming up there quite yet. And that's about it. Now, I purposely did not show you my single seed challenge or my snail roll stuff, because I'm actually planning on doing another video on those two. But otherwise, that's basically what I have that I have started from seed that's growing under the lights right now. Thank you so much for joining me today, and we'll see you next time. Bye.